online are welcome to put their questions in the chat box. I would like to introduce the first speaker of this session, Mr. Muhammad Hamad Bashir Saeed, Project Expert, Private Financing Advisory Network, United Nations Industrial Development Organization. Mr. Hamad has been actively engaged in the business of consulting, business advisory, and has been trained by USAID. His current assignments include working for different specialized agencies of United Nations. Also managed was biggest clean tech accelerator and managed many innovative approaches in this program, thereby resulting in more clean tech innovations. Currently, he is a part of Private Finance Advisory Network, which is a global initiative focusing on financing for clean energy projects. He has participated as presenter in many 4IR-related conferences as speaker, and particular area of interest with reference to 4IR is Society 5.0 and tech startup support. He has got a master's degree in international business from Middlesex University, London, UK. Let's give a warm welcome to Mr. Muhammad Hamad Bashir Saeed on stage to speak about what is Society 5.0, Society 5.0 versus Industry 4.0. Stage is yours.
Sorry. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for this very kind introduction. And we are very much grateful to our host institution, ITI, that was arranged this event and with such a good bunch of speakers. My introduction has already been given. My topic of presentation is slightly different. Slightly different in the sense that all the speakers, those who have been presenting today, they are talking about some technicalities, some technologies related to 4IR. What I will be speaking on is totally different aspect of fourth industrial revolution, that is Society 5.0. Anybody heard of Society 5.0 before? So Society 5, what is Society 5.0? I'll come to that. Okay. Brief introduction of my organization, UNIDO, United Nations Industrial Development Organization, that is technical part of this international conference. We are part of United Nations, and the name itself is self-explanatory. We're working for industrial development. We are headquartered in Vienna, Austria, and we have offices around the world and projects around the world. We are a technical cooperation agency of United Nations focusing on industrial development. Next, please. How does this organization UNIDO works? Firstly, it acts as a global forum. It generates and disseminates knowledge related to industrial issues. And one of the focus areas of UNIDO is this Industry 4.0. That is our mainstay. Like all of the UN organizations, they have we are different from other UN organizations in the sense that most of the UN organizations, in fact, all the UN organizations have humanitarian aspect. We do have a humanitarian aspect also, like some of them are working on health and provision of food, working for immigration related issues, migrations, peace, and other things. We are different in the sense that we are focusing on industrial development. And within industrial development, we work as a global forum and we disseminate knowledge. And one of the most priority area within the global forum is Industry 4.0, and the other is gender mainstreaming, and third is a melange of both Industry 4.0 and gender mainstreaming. Also, the other role which UNIDO plays is that it's a technical cooperation agency, which means that it provides technical assistance in the areas which are its priority areas. Next, please. Talking about priority areas, what are the priority areas of UNIDO? These are the three main priority areas: poverty reduction for productive activities, trade capacity building, energy and environment. And when we talk of Industry 4.0 and gender mainstreaming, that are overarching. This means they are related to all of these three thematic areas, and we have technical cooperation projects in these three areas. And we look at these three areas with the lens of Industry 4.0 and gender-based training and few other priority areas. Next, please. So, talking about industrial revolution, we have discussed many times today. What is industrial revolution? The first, second, third, fourth. These are the industrial revolutions there. So we should not go into these things because they have already been discussed. Now, next. When we talk of fourth industrial revolution, within the fourth industrial revolution, there are different waves. The fourth industrial revolution, first wave, it started in 2009, from 2009 to 2016. It involved digitalization, Internet of Things, advanced analytics, robotics, artificial intelligence. Second wave is artificial intelligence, blockchain, smart automation, 5G, 6G, future of energy, satellite internet. Now, the coming wave, which is 2025, till we never know up till when, it includes quantum computing, cybersecurity, neuro and nanotechnology, bioinformatics, and few dots. What are these dots called? They are technologies that we don't know. Nobody heard of this blockchain technology before 2016. People relate to that with crypto, but crypto helped in development of the blockchain technology, but we never know that a new technology, neurophysical psycho technology would come, which nobody had heard. So this dot means there would be multiple technologies that would be coming and we don't know. Cobots is getting very popular in countries like Japan. The robots that work alongside with the human beings, collaborative robots, cobots. Next, please. Now, this is about industry. We have discussed a lot about industry. What is Society 5.0? Society 5.0 is human integration and technology. Human integration and technology. Next, please. The definition of Society 5.0 is human-centered society that balances economic advancement with the resolution of social problems by a system that highly integrates cyberspace and physical space. So this definition, which is fourth industrial revolution, was very much conceived by the certain organizations, international organizations, primarily based in Germany. So fourth industrial revolution and its many things, terminologies, they were from Germany. Society 5.0, it emerged from Japan. So this is a Japanese concept, and now, but that is applicable to all around the world. In simple word, what is Society 5.0? Society 5.0 is the convergence of cyberspace and physical space. And we have seen in the early 2000s that there was a term that was used that is called digital gap. Digital gap is a term that is used as the division, the difference between the developed countries and developing countries. That creates economic disparities between developed countries and developing countries. And what was the reason? Technology, non-adoption of technology. And that is a serious issue. Society 5.0 is again the same thing in the context of Industry 4.0. So we're not talking about technology, we're talking about human interaction with the physical world's interaction with the cyber world. And what would that result in? Everything that is revolved around that is called Society 5.0. Society 5.0 is reality, it's happening, and it's a very, very serious issue. It's a huge opportunity also. If we do not adopt the Society 5.0 standards, then it would be disastrous for all the developing countries, because there's the discrepancy, the difference between the developed world, their technologies, their adoption of technologies, their interaction with humans using technology would increase, their cost of production would increase, they would be having lots of advanced technologies with so multiple areas which would help their economy grow many folds. And Society 4.0 is the social impact of that developed countries have adopted, but developing countries need to adopt. So this is something that developing countries need to prepare themselves to face this challenge of Society 5.0. When we talk of the history of fourth industrial revolution, the different phases that have been mentioned in many of the previous presentations, is that we talk about the four industrial revolutions, which is rather new concept in the sense that industrial revolution, first industrial revolution was referred to just 300 years old. But how old is this concept of society 5.0? Anybody have an idea? Next slide. We'll come to that. So this is the society 5.0. Industry, the industrial revolution, it was only this I mentioned, and all of the speakers mentioned it started 200 or 250 years, or maybe 300 years old. But this is something that dates back to thousands or maybe millions of years of humanity. The first society that is being referred as society 1.0 is thousands or maybe millions of years ago, called society 1, society 1.0. That is referred as society 1.0, in which the humans involved in basically primarily hunting, and they would eat whatever the animal they could hunt, and that is referred as society 1.0. Now, then came, after millions of years or maybe thousands of years, nobody has got a clear indication what was that. But again, this next society is this is agriculture. Agriculture society, when people develop this art of making certain tools for agriculture, that society, that era is referred to as society 2.0. Then came the third society, which is industrial society. Third, that is industrial society. Industrial society could be something close to what we call as the second industrial revolution. Then after that is the information society. Information society, if you want to compare that or relate that with the fourth industrial revolution, it is conforms to the third industrial revolution. So third industrial revolution is something like that is related to society 4.0, and this is fourth industrial revolution, society 2, the second industrial revolution, which is society 3.0. Now the new concept is society 5.0, that is fourth industrial revolution, and the economic, social, cultural, and other aspects of fourth industrial revolution that primarily involves physical space and its integration with the cyberspace. That is society 5.0. This is again, I developed an interest in this area by working for UNIO, because one of our areas and as mentioned by my boss, Dr. Bernardo, in his opening address, that we are not only looking after the aspects of Industry 4.0 and related physics, we are working on Society 5.0. Society 5.0 is another focus area of my organization, and I personally developed this interest in this thing when I was doing research long time back in 2000. We developed at that time there was no concept of this industrial revolution, the fourth industrial revolution. No, we thought of industrial revolution, but we did some research and we named that research called sociotech. Sociotech was a research based on the effects of computerization and technology. That was in year 2001. So around 20 years back, 21 years back. So that research was focused on effects of computerization on society, the effect of computerization on culture. How would the culture be affected? How would the values of the people would be affected by the access to information? What would be the change in the behavior of the people by the advancement in the technology? How would people react to a technology? That is called sociotech. That is in the era of information era. That's called sociotech. Now, Society 5.0 is the advanced version of sociotech. Next, please. So, Society 4.0, what is the difference between the Society 4.0 and what is Society 4.0? How come it is leading to Society 5.0 is when we talk of economies of scale. It is Society 4.0 is focused on efficiency. But Society 5.0 is problem solving and value creation. The Society 5.0 is leading towards betterment of society that needs to be adopted. Uniformity, if we talk of uniformity, 4.0 was primarily focusing on liberation from suppression of individuality. Now, Society 5.0 and its standards, they talk of diversity, a society where anyone and everyone can exercise diverse abilities. We have there are new technologies coming. There are new robotics and other technologies. There is a term called disability tech. This means tech companies that are working for those people who have special needs, for those people who are in one way or other handicapped with special needs. So for diversity, for differently abled people, for able people. Now that is what is Society 5.0. In terms of concentration, liberation from disparity. Now it talks about decentralization, a society where anyone can get opportunities anytime, anywhere. In terms of vulnerability, liberation from anxiety. Society 5.0, this international standards, it talks about society where people can live and pursue challenges and security. High environmental impacts and mass consumption of resources, liberation from resources and environmental constraints, sustainability, environmental harmony. So this standard, Society 5.0, now in the whole world, the leading country is Japan, and we are thankful to the Japanese University of Tokyo and also their research institutions called Hitachi Institute of Hitachi, which is one of the biggest industry, and that they are having this huge research center in Tokyo, along with the University of Tokyo. They have been very helpful in giving us regular information on Society 5.0 and what are they doing related to that. Sustainability and okay. So environmental, this is also something that is also domain of WILO. So we are working very closely with them to implement Society 5.0 to disseminate information related to Society 5.0 and why adoption of Society 5.0 is necessary for all the developing countries of the world. Next, please. Okay, so it talks about economic development. So that economic and social issues, the economic, what are the problems that are the like? Whenever there is a prosperity, there is economic development. It also comes with lots of issues, lots of burning issues, lots of constraints. So demand of energy rising. So resolution of social problems under Society 5.0 is reduction of GHG emissions. Food stuff is increasing, increased production and reduce loss of food. So what is this increased production? The biotechnology, more production using biotechnology, reducing loss of food stuff that many countries have adopted. In Germany, they have adopted this saying that how can the post-harvest crop would be reduced using robotics, using certain, they have developed certain lenses. In fact, our organization has also supported some lenses with an AI algorithm that detects when the plant is right and that it should be picked, and it should be picked by the robots. So that is what the Society 5.0 is at. Now, why we are saying this thing? Because many countries are doing this thing who have got resources. So the developing countries should also adopt these things. IoT devices that have been just mentioned in presentation before me. So lifespan become longer and the aging cycle is run. Mitigation of costs associated with aging cycle, providing more technology for the serving of humanity for aged people. International competition promotes sustainable industrialization, sustainable environment-friendly industrialization. That is energy efficient. That is resulting in less emission of carbon, concentration of wealth and regional equality, redistribution of wealth and correction of regional equality. So this is what is the aim of Society 4.0, which is a standard that needs to be followed. Though it seems that what I'm talking about is something out of the world, something utopia. Obviously, it is not a utopia. Utopia is not, everything is not perfect, it's not possible. All these things that are being mentioned here in the Standard of Society 5.0, it can't be 100% adopted, but we can try under the Society 5.0 to at least leading towards these things. Leading these things, and how can you lead these things? We'll discuss that also. So incorporating new technologies, IoT, robotics, AI, big data in all industries and social activities. Goods and services that generally address manifold latent needs without disparity. So it causes lesser disparity. So using technology for the economic development, that is also a very important part of Society 5.0. Next, please. Now, as discussed with the Honorable Minister today also, and I was very impressed by the Honorable Secretary of came this morning, that he talked about the Industry 2.0, its impact, and he gave the suggestion that there are very talented young population in Sri Lanka who can be channelized to face the challenges given by the fourth industrial revolution. And what are the challenges given by the fourth industrial revolution? It is the Society 5.0. Now, how can we adopt which technologies can we adopt, and how can we face the challenges is by supporting startups. Startups in the area of tech area, startups obviously in the area of 4IR technologies. Next, please. So this is the typical UNITO model that we adopt. In fact, the same model was, you must have seen the same model that my colleague, Mr. Alexa, he did this in the first presentation that we developed. We developed knowledge and skills, global forum, technical cooperation, research policy, normative work to fourth industrial revolution. So this is the typical the cycle that we adopt for our projects, and how can we do it? Next, please. And what we have done, we supported few in different countries, different ideas, like very simple ideas. This is Zaheen machine of Pakistan that offers reduction in gas and electricity consumption through IoT automation. That is a simple device. There is no rocket science involved, but since it is something related to leading towards not pure IoT but leading towards IoT, so that is a small device that can be it's a retrofit device put on water geysers and used in the winters that controls the regulator of the geysers. Now, there's a problem that in many countries like Pakistan, in the winter the natural gas is used for water geysers, and the natural gas, the traditional geysers, they are very huge and very energy inefficient because there is no proper mechanism of control. They have just a thermostat and it keeps on burning throughout the night. And even though if you put the thermostat in certain position, it keeps on running irrespective of the use. So what they did, they did a simple plug-and-play device that automates the thermostat of the geyser, and that can be controlled through your mobile device. So there is a microchip in that. There's a that can be controlled through the comfort of your home and without physically going outside in the winter and controlling that. So this is no rocket science, but this is something that is leading towards the sustainability. And we calculated this thing, we supported this idea, we gave them cash prizes, we gave training them, we sent them to Silicon Valley University also for further mentoring and training. And they came up with this idea and they started in production. In 1 year, they sold thousands of devices. And we calculated the amount of carbon reduction through supporting this device, and it was thousands of tons of CO2 equivalent were reduced by this device, because this device was saving huge amount of natural gas which was being burned in the geysers without any monitoring. So it's electronic monitoring. Similarly, in South Africa, we talked about agri-related. We talked about food production in Society 5.0. So My Smart Farm was a startup from South Africa that offers a data dashboard solution for farmers, including remote and on-farm data. And that also, there was again an idea that was supported by Legal in South Africa, and that is just data collection. And this is just one example, but we supported many startups in the agri sector also. And this is just for gathering data. Similarly, Positive Energy, that's a startup in Turkey, and they're doing very good. They are a startup that is developed IoT devices and cloud-based analytics for energy consumption in commercial buildings. Again, for all of these things, we did analysis, and by promoting these simple ideas, startups, we managed to reduce huge amount of CO2 emissions, huge amount of GHG emissions. So that leads to sustainability. So again, next please. This is then another startup that is supported in Africa, that is acacia-based. This is also agriculture-related monitoring that is used in large scale for basically for cattle and crops farming. activities. And this was slightly complicated, but again, this was in countries like Africa, it was very useful. So the bottom line is that we need the countries like Sri Lanka in order to face the challenges of and to be adaptable to the Society 5.0. We need to support startups with innovative ideas that lead to sustainability. Next, please. So then we talk about blockchain. So blockchain, as it was all of you know this thing, that blockchain is basically distributed ledger. It's a distributed ledger where each data in the form of a block exists, and each block of information is connected with one another in the form of a chain. That's why it's called blockchain. So it's like a chain of blocks. So if you remove one block from that chain, the whole chain will be affected. And that is the basic science, the basic technology, the basic concept of blockchain. Now, using that blockchain for the betterment of society is just like the one Dr. Sunil Mani from the Dubai government, he gave this idea, presented this idea that is being implemented in the government. Is basically it is used for traceability. Now that blockchain technology, though it was formed initially for the crypto, but that is used in multiple areas in e-government. It also, this was from Switzerland, and it is the traceability of the food. Because food obviously is everybody's requirement, and developing countries and developed countries, they need to support the innovative ideas in every area. So this was also something that provides information and traceability of the ingredients of any product by just looking at the scanning the barcode on the product, that what is the whole chain where the ingredients of this particular food has come from. So that was very much appreciated. It also won some international prizes. Also, smart lenses. IoT and augmented reality enabled to provide remote technical assistance to test laboratories. Smart lenses, and many other new technologies can be. And also, like when we talk of technology, there's no limit to technology. It can be very augmented reality based agriculture support. Also, it can be simple agriculture support. Like we supported one idea of this IoT devices which are for the potato crop. That in potato plant, you put that device, it would measure, it would detect the amount of moisture in the soil, and as soon as the moisture is less, it will automatically turn on the water supply when it is required. And if the moisture content is enough for the potato field, it will automatically switch off the water supply. So in this case, water is saving, water is life. So similar, this kind of areas are the ones that can be support, that we should all support, and we are supporting, and we look forward to do similar kind of activities we are already doing in Sri Lanka also. Now, another aspect of Society 5.0 is the gender. The gender gap. There have been lots of research in this area, gender and industrialization. The gender gap, that is the gap between the women in the workforce, just like it was presented in today's second presentation by the respected lady from the policy study of Sri Lanka, was the labor gap and women participation. Now that is also another very serious issue related to Society 5.0. That we recently published, there is just like I told you that our organization also works as an information dissemination. We conducted a huge study on 4IR and gender. That is freely available on our website. Video.org, you can go to the publication section, and this is the first one in the publication because it's very recently published. And that is something that provides data of how would the women workforce being affected by food revolution, and that is something related to Society 5.0. The gender gap, how is that increasing? Women in technology, female labor force participation in manufacturing sector, how would that be affected by the introduction of new technologies, by the robotics, how would the obviously male would be affected also, but how would the woman be affected? So there are lots of things that needs thinking. There are lots of things which are food for thought. How do we need to change our policies? How do we need to change our priorities to face these challenges? So in this presentation, there are purpose of that is to tell you about something. What is Society 5.0? What are the effects? What can be done? But there are still many questions for which we need to think. We need to act. So, women in technology, female labor force, gender, that's also another issue. And that issue would become a serious issue unless we ensure gender participation, we do gender mainstreaming, ensure gender mainstreaming in each and every aspect of technology and each and every aspect of technology's utilization. Next, please. So in this digital, there's a huge research again for this research which has been quoted by our headquarter also. It is claimed that investment in soft skills such as socio-emotional intelligence are important to increase employment prospects. Thus, soft skills training programs have become an increasingly common form of youth employment policy in developing countries. So, Society 5.0 is not all about technology. It's about soft skills also. It's about, and another thing with reference to the this gender aspect is that women have an advantage in soft skills, at least partly because of their key responsibility in the household and their work experience in job that generally requires soft skills. So this is another thing in which our organization is working. They are keen to work, and we would require other organizations, other people to think on this aspect, the gender in technology. There have been lots of researches, and in developing countries, it has been found out that there are certain fields which are being preferred by female, especially say if you talk South Asia, the health sector and the teaching sector, they are to some extent women dominated, and they are the ones areas that are being preferred by the women. But it has been observed as saying that there are certain technical areas. If you talk of engineering, the hardcore engineering or maybe mechanical engineering, there are least number of women participation in these subcontinent area. There may be cultural issues, there may be trend issues. So that is something that is increasing, and that will increase the gap, the gender gap when you talk of technology and 4IR in the context of Society 5.0. Next, please. Road ahead. What needs to be done? What needs to be done, and what we have discussed about problems, strengthening the innovation ecosystem. The only solution to face these challenges is an innovative approach. The innovative approach for promoting innovative ideas, the whole ecosystem needs to be developed. Ecosystem needs to be revamped to cater for and growth of 4IR related technologies. So there are barriers. Shift to near-term thinking. Those who do not innovate will fall behind. Fewer resources for innovation. Again, challenge and issue in many developing countries. Data. We are living in the world of data. We are living in an information age. Information and data are two related things. Information has an upper hand over data. And we have been living in information society. But Society 5.0 is more than information, it is data-driven society. Data is considered though at a low level in terms of data, that organized data is becoming information. So we were living in information society, but society 5.0 refers to data-driven society, where things would depend on data, the availability of data, and things would revolve and act according to data more than the information. So, and also like the data exchanges, the pivotal role of data, that nobody can deny this amount of data that we transmitted all around the world. What are the drivers? Industrial policy 4.0. Industrial policy has to be revamped to cater for an innovative ecosystem. Platformization, they need to be institutionalized. They need to be promoted as an institution. Co-creation, virtual co-creation. Now we live in the virtual world. So virtual co-creation, there are many other things which would support the ecosystem by supporting the startups. And obviously, it ultimately an evolving innovation ecosystem needs to be developed. Okay, this is again the typical our organization's approach to industry AI gender gap. We did some research, and if you look at this is the global one, and you can see the statistics. We'll talk about the gender gap, and this is alarming. I mean, you can all see this thing on the right side. It's the male, and that's the female. The healthcare, education. So, what needs to be done? Digital skill gap, digital gender divide, and lack of STEM professionals. So, the quality of the STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, their professionals need to be increased, and their quality needs to be improved. So, we are trying to provide open source platforms. We created some open source platforms where information related to our researches and approaches they are being given free of cost. Factory labs capability centers are developed, distance learning, smart learning, technical and vocational training. That's another thing to basically to upgrade the skills. So, what the road ahead? How would the working society 5.0? How would it affect the working? Industrial upgrading, MSMEs. One good aspect, no, there are many good aspects of Society 5.0, but one good opportunity that this MSMEs, the micro and small and medium-sized enterprises, they can also play a very important role in Society 5.0. Society 5.0 is, though there are different approaches to Society 5.0, one approach is saying that this is the growth and the domination of the large transnational or multinational companies, but MSMEs would, the technology-based MSMEs could grow rapidly in Society 5.0 because any MSMEs or any startup coming up with innovative technology that can grow drastically in months, if not in weeks. Smart manufacturing, 4IR innovation, value chains, SMEs, cluster. So these are all things would be affected that I just mentioned. Smart cities, which have already been mentioned by one of the speakers from the Dubai government. Innovation ecosystem we talked about. Entrepreneurship and startups. So this presentation I'm discussing on this thing that we've been doing and that needs to be continued. Thanks. So that is all about my presentation. So if there are any questions.
Yeah, you will be can. So thank you, Mr. Ahmad Bashir, for your talk. It was very informative. Thank you very much again. So the last speaker of today's session is Mr. Ajmal Anwar. He is currently serving as a member of the Ministry of Information Technology and Telecommunication in Pakistan. He has over 20 years of extensive experiences in management positions. He holds a master's degree in business administration and a bachelor's degree in engineering from the PMI USA. He will be talking about artificial intelligence, culture, and education. And the talk will take place online.
Thank you very much for inviting me today. Can we put on the presentation if you have it, please? So I had shared the presentation, so if you can upload it, then let me know. You can hear me okay, right? Hello? Can you hear me? Yeah, okay, excellent, excellent. Thank you very much. I wished I could have joined you personally there, and I wanted to, but due to some of the engagements here, I couldn't join you. So we'll go to the next slide, please. All right, thank you. So I will give a very brief presentation today because I just wanted to highlight the importance in two areas, like the education and in terms of how it's changing our culture, the artificial intelligence. But I would just talk about, what the governments have to, because I'm working for the government. I know that it's very important for our governments to work on the policies and, to regulate AI the way things are happening. Now, starting with the AI, you might have heard from different tech executives and from a lot of your colleagues about the artificial intelligence and the word or the letters AI. So AI is unquestionably this year's favorite buzzword. Many people can't stop gushing about it. It's as if anything computer does these days is now considered AI. Anything your mobile does or any magic the mobile does, we just call it, it's AI. And more often than not, when you pull back your curtains or you do something at home, sometimes people confuse between the AI and IoT. So AI has become a buzzword. But this is rightly the buzzword for this year and for these years, because AI, which is the artificial intelligence, is now, at least for the moment, a necessary component in CEOs' first day speeches, in any tech executive's favorite discussions. And AI is basically used in the corporate earning calls these days, used for boosting the stock prices, used for securing venture capital funding, because in your strategy, particularly for the tech organizations, AI must be part of your strategy and your vision. Now, defining AI, most of you will know, but just as a refresher, artificial intelligence is technology that behaves intelligently using skills associated with human intelligence, including the ability to perceive, learn, reason, and act autonomously. So artificial intelligence is now a part of our normal lives. we are surrounded by this technology from, going to parking. So the parking systems you use, smart sensors for taking, high quality, spectacular photos, or using any personal assistance application. So AI is part of it. Similarly, AI is used in education, and the traditional methods of teaching, traditional methods used in healthcare, traditional methods used in any kind of workspace, day-to-day jobs, AI is part of it. So human touch is getting now more expensive as corporations continue to remove individuals from customer support and replace them with chatbots and with AI-driven automated replies. So people who live in the Western countries, and you will see like, when you hire someone to do a service or cleaning at home, and those jobs like carpentry and other jobs, they are getting more and more expensive when there's a human touch. But if you automate with some application, and then you include in there AI component, put the artificial intelligence, there you go, it's automated. So, and AI analysis is also used in different kind of operations and day-to-day operations, in calculation of your profit, and having the analysis of your cost profitability, a cost analysis of the operations, because AI analysis is much faster and more accurate than humans. AI can use its ability to interpret data with better decisions. So we will see artificial intelligence continue along the path to becoming the most transformative technology humanity has ever developed. When you search for any advertisement on computer, you would have noticed that next time you are browsing your computer looking for some information, the advertisements related to what you searched earlier will show up on the side automatically. What is that? Why is that happening? Or when you get on to your car every day around the same time to go to office, now when you get onto your car, your mobile will automatically give you a beep or a message, and it will tell you now you are going to your office without you prompting it. It will give you a message that, yes, you are on your way to office, the traffic condition is this, and this is what you should avoid. So that emphasizes the importance of AI in our lives and why we should care about it. Next slide, please. Thank you. Now, there are several advantages of AI, because AI is being used in almost every sector, but there are a few worth mentioning. So when you take or any organization is taking a task that is too complex for human mind, or something which is repetitive, where someone has to sit there and do jobs which is taking a lot of time, and we are paying someone there, you use part of robotics and AI in there. AI is also used to reduce errors and defects, and to discover trends and meanings in the data. When you have a bulk data, you can analyze it. AI has the capacity to make life simpler, easier, and more advanced. Although there's a debate, if AI is making our life simpler or complex, or is it, there's a fear which I will explain a bit. But using the right technology always makes life easier and more advanced if we adopt it in time and properly. Our society will gain countless hours of productivity with just the introduction of autonomous transportation and AI influencing our traffic congestion issues, not to mention the other ways it will improve the on-the-job productivity. So when there will be autonomous cars, it will free up the human beings from stressful commutes. Humans will be able to spend their time in a variety of other ways with their families without having to drive the car or think about which route to follow. AI will do all that magic. Healthcare is another sector where AI applications include something like image recognition to detect cancer, And there are a lot of other applications even being used in the mobile, even the Apple and these other Android phones. Now they're using components of healthcare using artificial intelligence components in there. Many image recognition technologies are increasingly capable of detecting a malignancy or microfractures in MRI or X-rays data from patients. Many pattern recognition systems can connect multiple pathology reports and generate nearly perfect, I won't say perfect, nearly perfect prediction of the patient's conditions. Despite this, making medical advice without a doctor's specific clearance is not usual. So that's the balance where we need to look at. There are certain things still where AI can't help. When there's a humanity, when there is emotions, although there are some applications now coming on board which will detect the emotions also. Now, better planning the routes or finding solutions for how transportation can flow more smoothly is another question that relates to how AI can be used. There are a lot of simulations. These different companies, like think of Uber and all these are, the tech companies, the big giants, even the Tesla, they are using simulations for the autonomous driving, integrating different solutions and promising that, going forward, there will be reduction in queues and saving time, and there will be more fuel efficiency. The way car will be driven, transportation will be used using artificial intelligence. Google has recently launched a program that's called Google's AI-based flood forecasting system in saving lives. And if you search for it, they are already implementing. They have implemented in Bangladesh and in India, I guess. So how they're using it is beforehand they give using AI analytics and AI simulations. They will show the river floods, like the river, the water level going up. They do the comparative analysis, and they will integrate their solutions with the mobile towers and the BTSs, and then they will send the messages to the people living nearby. Hence, AI is saving lives. Artificial intelligence algorithms are powered by data, because obviously you need data that will be analyzed, and then you use different algorithms. So I won't go into the technical depth, but this is how AI is used. Data is collected about every single minute of every person's personal information. Now, that is the other thing where, the other subject, the subject of privacy, the subject of, that's why I put it on the top. Like, there are good things, but there are bad things. But then there are the ugly things. The bad things are now people are talking about, the privacy being impacted, because the AI is getting into our lives and annoyingly getting into our lives, where, it knows everything about us, what we are searching for, what we are looking for in advertisements. It analyzes our data. So now there's a fear of, what will happen to our lives. Super intelligence will take over human beings. What will happen to ethics? Getting AI into our lives, everyday lives, into our family lives, and is it creating, unemployment? So, if businesses and governments decide to make decisions based on the intelligence and gather information about every single person, then this could devolve into social oppression. So that is something, food for thought. Won't delve into it, but that's what we need to think, and that's why the policies are important. The next slide, please. Thank you. Now, so I just wanted to say briefly, there are a lot of areas and sectors where AI can be used, but one area was the education sector, where AI can be used and how it is impacting our culture. So in terms of education, artificial intelligence is becoming like domain capable of altering the aspect of our social interactions. AI and machine learnings are key drivers for growth and innovation across all the industries. But the education sector is no different. So AI-powered technology solutions have been used in ed tech, which is the education technology space, for quite some time. But in the last couple of years, the adoption has been slow. Number of reasons. People were scared about, cybersecurity or the privacy, technology getting complex, adoptability was low. But something has pushed people into adopting AI, particularly in education. And we all know that was the global pandemic. See, the pandemic has drastically shifted the landscape, forcing educators to rely on technology for virtual learning, because there's no other option. Either our kids are left behind, don't study because you can't go to school. You have to wear mask, or sometimes even you wear a mask, there are restrictions because someone was found positive, don't go to school. So what is the option? Virtual learning. So now 86% of educators say that technology should be a core part of the education. And AI has been used in that sector. The artificial intelligence is growing rapidly in the school districts, showing up the programs and software models, and it's supporting the story time, but it's also now being used to educate kids, not only providing education, but also providing education about AI, education about cybersecurity. So there's a fear that AI is replacing teachers. So I would say it's not replacing teachers, it is enabling teachers, it is empowering teachers. Because technology, we can't stop it. It's a flood, it's a tsunami. Technology can't stop. The only thing is we need to adopt. Adoptability should be faster. There were, the demonstration and there were presentations about, all sorts of technologies in IR 4.0 and 5.0. There are countries who are not even adopting 4.0. And there are countries who are now moving to IR 5.0. For example, Germany, they are planning for IR 5.0. So we can't stop AI, we can't stop technology. Let's make use of it. So in education, AI has begun producing new teaching and learning solutions. They are now undergoing testing in different contexts. So I would say strongly recommend schools, universities should use AI. A lot of medical schools are already using the uni level, the top level, the advanced level learning systems are already using, but we should lower the bar and go to the schools level, use the power of AI. So AI can be used to improve learning outcomes, presenting examples of how it can do the things or the lab testing or use the data to improve educational equity even and quality in the developing world. The other thing where technology and AI can help is to reduce the gender gap. And how is that? Because in some countries, you will notice that due to whatever the cultural reasons or maybe the poverty, people can't send their kids to schools, can't commute, there's no one to take them to schools, schools are remote, using a technology, using AI, but ensuring there is a connectivity to those areas. Technology can help having education for all boys and girls, and sitting from, working from their home. So government and educational institutions are now rethinking and reworking the educational programs to prepare learners for the increasing presence of AI in different aspects of human activity. I strongly encourage, if you are working with governments or working with educational institutions, there are different ways. I don't want to go into the depth of how AI can be used, but different tools available during the testing, examinations, looking the behavior of the kids, even looking at, how AI can be used in, some people who are from big corporates or some corporate organizations, they will know that during the, using video conferences, there are tools, AI tools now that can tell you that which of the participants, like you're watching now and listening to my presentation and, watching me, and if you are getting bored, AI can detect, who's getting bored of, Ajmal saying all the BS, on this topic. So similarly for students, for education, the kids' focus and the kids' response to any topic can be determined through AI tools that will not only show where the focus of the kids is, but also will show the aptitude of the kids. So that's another way AI can be used. So we can see where our kids are going, like their aptitude is towards like this particular topic, technology or health, or something to do with transportation, or more towards arts. So the different learning tools can be used in education. And I did mention SDG 4, which is quality education. There are SDG goals of the United Nations, and I'm also closely working on all the 17 goals. So SDG 4, which is the quality education and reducing the gender gap and providing education to all, that can be helped using the AI tool and the technologies. So next slide, please. So I'll quickly move to the last two slides. Now, the AI use in our culture. So there's a transformative impact of artificial intelligence. AI is used in safe cities. The transformative impact of artificial intelligence will have far-reaching economic and legal and political and regulatory implications that we need to be discussing when preparing for it. So whether at the government level or in the corporate level, and the policymakers should be rethinking how different aspects will come together, like the regulatory sides, the legal, the ethical, so that we can make best use of the AI. So, for example, like I mentioned, like the driverless cars, the 5G technology, and then AI with it. Driverless cars will be used, autonomous cars will be used. Now, who is at fault if an autonomous vehicle hurts a pedestrian, or how to manage a global autonomous arms race? These are just few examples and the challenges we will face when we will adopt AI. So we need to think about it. We need to think deeper, because we can't, as I mentioned, we can't stop AI getting into our lives. Let's prepare ahead of time. So another issue is ensuring that AI doesn't become so proficient at doing the job it was designed to do, that it crosses our ethical or legal boundaries. So while the original intent and goal of AI is to benefit humanity, but if it is used in a way that it goes beyond the desired goals and it goes into a destructive domain, rather than benefiting us, it can be efficient, but it can be destructively efficient, then it will impact our society negatively. Again, something to think about, how we plan, how we work together, private sector, government sector, working together. So that's the impact on our society and our culture. So our society will gain countless hours of productivity with the introduction of autonomous transportation. That's a fact. And AI is influencing our traffic congestion issues, and not to mention the other ways, like it will help in a lot of ways. It will help to utilize our time productively with our families, and to do the job we are good at, and let AI do the jobs where we need to use for automation. But the way we uncover criminal activity and solve crimes will be enhanced with artificial intelligence. The way we approach the criminal activity, you might have heard that people are using now in different countries the AI solutions for crime stopping. For example, in the safe cities, they are using AI analytics, using different cameras and analysis that, by the time someone takes the gun and trying to hit someone, there will be some solution they're testing now that automatically someone will fire at that person when realizing that someone is taking the gun to hit someone. There will be some solutions that they will hit with a bullet, but not a bullet which will be, killing the person, the offender, or at least doing the damage that that person cannot hit the other person and people can move away. So these sort of solutions will help for crime stopping. Facial recognition technology is becoming more common, is the fingerprints. Again, that's AI helping our societies, our culture. Use of AI in the justice system also presents opportunities. It can be used without crossing our individual privacies. So, as I said, unless you choose to live remotely and never plan to interact with modern world, your life will be significantly impacted by artificial intelligence. So that's what I'm keep repeating, that start thinking about it. While there will be many learning experiences and challenges to be faced as the technology rolls out in the coming years into a lot of new applications, the expectation will be that artificial intelligence will generally have a more positive than negative impact on the society. So just keep that in mind. That's when you plan for adopting it. So considering that AI is already used to help us tackle lots of other challenges like climate change and exploring the space and developing treatments for cancer, and so there's a lot of potential. AI is used in cybersecurity. Now that's another domain which I'll briefly touch upon. So this year, the World Economic Forum identified cybercrime as potentially posing a more significant risk to society than terrorism. As machines take over more of our lives, hacking and cybercrime inevitably become more of a problem. Every connected device you add to a network is a potential of failure that an attacker would use against you. Now, as networks of connected devices become more and more complex, identifying those points of failures becomes more and more complex. So there's another way that this complexity can be reduced if we use the technology of artificial intelligence in the right way. So AI can play a role through all these complexities by analyzing the network traffic and learning to recognize patterns that suggests, the bad intentions of someone, looks at the behaviors. There will be smart algorithms that will play a role in keeping us safe from the 21st century crimes. So some of the most significant applications you will see in the upcoming years. We need to get ready for it, but keep reminding you, have some plans. And that's my next slide will be on, what the government should do, how the private and public sector should work together. So please, next slide. And the last slide. Right. So as I mentioned, good and bad and the ugly and good things happening and, challenges happening. So there are regulations important, right? When things are unregulated, they, go all around, they backfire, cause destruction. There has to be consultation process, governments, private sector sitting together, working on the compliance and, safety solutions. So we need to regulate AI, and mainly I will say the two reasons, right? Firstly, because governments and companies use AI to take decisions that can have significant impact on our lives. So AI policy will maximize the benefits of AI. So let's put it that way. Policy important because it will help, it will benefit the humanity. If you don't have the policies and the regulations, there will be no control. The purpose of AI policy, as I mentioned, is twofold. So government invests the development and adoption of AI to secure its benefits. AI algorithms will be built to align with the overarching goals of humans. But the second thing is consider the balance. train your people, because there's a fear, there's a confusion that AI will take over the jobs, take over human beings, people will be unemployed. So yes, technology always comes with some challenges. So train your people, train the trainers, teach them new skills, AI related skills, and get the people ready to work, adopt, and get less impacted in terms of unemployment that AI will cause. So we have to work. So the most AI ready governments that are spread across different areas around the globe, I would say the governments are, in Europe, Australasia, the Americas, and the Middle East. These governments depend on strong relationships with the technology sector and with the private sector. A trend that is likely to intensify is the technology giants realize the scope of AI business opportunities, and the private sector is jumping onto it. So governments are also beginning to approach startups who are in this particular area, and then learning from them is potential providers of AI solutions for public sector. And working with the private sector is very important. That's why I mentioned consultation, because I always say here in different discussions that governments, the private sector, and the academia should always work together if you want to grow your country and want to take ICT forward and working on the tech solutions and the compliance and the policies. So again, I repeat, the government, the private sector, academia. Same we need to do with AI. So for all the potential benefits of public-private AI collaboration, the relationship sometimes gets complicated because the primary duty of the government is to its citizens, right? So we all know the government should support its citizens, enable businesses, but the responsibility of private sector, by contrast, is to support their shareholders, to grow the shareholding of shareholders. So these priorities can sometimes clash, but we need to keep that balance and think about the overall for the society, that how to make use of the technology for the betterment of the human beings and for the everyone around the world. So I would say the last thing I would say that legally regulating AI can ensure that AI safety becomes inherent part of our future AI development initiatives. Regardless of its simplicity or complexity, we have to go through, the government, the private sector, the academia, we have to go through a process of development of certain policies and regulation that focuses on minimizing non-compliance and chances of failures. So the last bit, I see there are certain components that will help a good AI policy. So a good AI policy from the government side will be, or working with the private sector, but building a policy will be enabling beneficial AI research and development, so R&D, obviously very important. The global governance, race condition, and international cooperation. Because sometimes you learn from your neighborhood. Like, now people are sitting here in Colombo, people are traveling from different parts of the world, sitting together. This is how it should be. We learn from each other. So international cooperation is really important, and that's my role in this ministry, by the way. So I look after international cooperation for the federal government in the Ministry of IT and Telecom, Pakistan. So we also look at the economic impacts. So when you form a government policy on AI, look at the economic impacts. What will be the change? What will be the effect? What will happen to the labor shift? Losing jobs, and what will be the inequalities and technological unemployment. I call it not unemployment, but technological unemployment, which is a big question. So that's how you need to train your people. Accountability. When you make the policy, make sure who will be accountable for what part. There should be transparency, and there should be explainability. So you're able to explain why you're making this policy, why this particular clause, why this particular chapter, what is the reason, so that people are aware of, each and everything. So it's not, things are not under the shield. And surveillance, privacy, and civil liberties. So we need to look at how that will be impacted. So put in the policy. And the last, fairness, ethics, and human rights. Very important. These should be part of the AI policy, a good AI policy. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much, Mr. Ajmal. It was very informative, sir. So now it is open for questions. So if you have any question, you can raise your hand. So we will come with the mic to you. It seems like there are no questions. So thank you very much, Mr. Ajmal again. So now we have come to the end of our day one of the conference. So thank you for participation here, ladies and gentlemen. Please remember that tomorrow will be the second day of the conference. So we are starting by 9 o'clock in the morning at the auditorium here, ITI. And tomorrow will also be the second day of the conference. So your participation will be greatly appreciated. And we do hope that you will have a productive and fulfilling day tomorrow at the conference, and all the best to you. Thank you.